Hello and welcome to this special series of episodes called 29 Days of Magic. During Black History Month, the month of February, I'll be interviewing a Black woman a day who's from business and entrepreneurship. You name it, I'm going to have a chat with her. The idea for this is to show off the amazingness of Black women throughout various industries. I hope you take a listen, like, share, review, and be inspired by these incredible stories. Take a listen. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Maniel, CEO of the cultural communications agency, D Flash. Each episode, I bring on a different business leader who's doing some game-changing work, and this episode is no different. I'm so excited to have Pier Duncan, who's the Chief of Staff of the Opportunity Network and creator of Black Women Work. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Pier, how are you?
I'm doing well, Laura. How are you doing?
Great. I know we're both in huge studios where we're going to be recording this with like lots of amazing audio equipment, but not really.
Definitely not that. I am 100% in my bathroom. I have to tell you that.
No shade. Oh, listen, we're all stuck at home. So like, what are you going to do? Can't complain.
I know. Here we are.
It's #life. But even though we are home, the podcast still remains the same. And the first question remains the same. So, Pier, what was your first job?
Okay, so my first job was, I actually worked at Chuck E. Cheese. That was actually...
You're like somebody else I've interviewed either worked at Chuck E. Cheese or something Chuck E. Cheese adjacent.
Chuck E. Cheese adjacent.
So, yes. What did you do while you were at Chuck E. Cheese?
Yes, my boss was a large robotic rat, and
oh my god.
My first job was at Chuck E. Cheese, and I actually really wanted to work in high school. I have a twin sister, so sometimes I slip into saying we. Just because at that time, that's kind of
you're a twin.
Yeah, we're twins. So so at the time, both living at home, obviously in high school with our parents, and we really, really wanted to work. We just wanted to, I think we're both very independent people. And I think we just really wanted to, get the stuff that we wanted to get and not have to ask our parents. And so when we had already gotten into college, my parents were like, okay, you can work, which of course is like the last few months of school. They really wanted us to prioritize our studies. My parents are both educators, so that was super important to them. So we got this job at Chuck E. Cheese because one of our classmates worked there, and it was. I mean, honestly, it was a job. You don't get paid a lot. It was minimum wage, but it was kind of funny. I just have it. First of all, it's like a great fun fact to drop at a party.
Exactly.
So, but I think more than anything, it was just one of those things where you learn very early on what the work world can be like how hard it can be, because I was very aware of the fact that I was on the college track. I was teed up for that, and that was where I was headed in just, some months. And I was working with people who just didn't have the same opportunities, and that's hard. I mean, some of them were parents, and had kids, and it's tough. I mean, you're at the leisure of the manager who's trying to get coverage for the day, and so it's just kind of, you're getting slotted in places, and on top of that, of course, it's Chuck E. Cheese, so you're doing all of the stuff that you have to do with kids and like laser sounds and like all these other things going on around you. The like robotic man starts up. So I mean, it was definitely like very much a first job. Like it's like kind of a little, I don't know, I'm not embarrassed by it, but it's funny, it's just like a weird thing that, like, of course this was her first job. but yeah, that was my first actual job. I would say like the first real job that I was a part of my career track, though. Am I skipping ahead here? Is this okay to go?
You can absolutely go ahead. Go for it.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So I mean, I think the first like real job that I had, though, was I was working at the Department of Education as an intern while I was in grad school, the New York City Department of Education. And it was actually really cool because I had decided after college, I moved to DC for a year and some change. This was the first year of Barack Obama's administration, and like DC was getting sexy again. It was, you know, I was like 23, 22, 23, and it was just a really cool time. And but actually, what grabbed my attention wasn't what was happening at the federal level, it was what was happening at the city level. And there was a lot of stuff going on with the public education system at the time that was very political, and the community members were very vocal. And I remember feeling like, wow, the students don't feel like they're at the center of this conversation. Um, and that really made me feel like I wanted to be in a position where I could influence that, where I could change that. And so I honestly thought I was going to be an elected official for the longest time, and I wanted to work. Yeah, I know. I mean, and it's not off the table. I think it's just it's not now, you know, but I definitely thought by this age at 33 that I would, you know, be close to that or have done that. And I think I liked the idea of leading with integrity, like inserting that level of integrity and thoughtfulness into the way you're taking care of your community. And it felt like a good way to help people in the immediate community around you in really significant ways. And so I'm like, oh, cool. I can work at the intersection of education and policy and like politics. And that felt really new because nobody tells you you can do that. Nobody's, you know, it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher, firefighter, whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Those are
those are it. Like, that's it. So like I came to grad school up here in New York. That's how I ended up in New York. And while there, I started interning. I was in an urban policy program at first. And so I started interning at the New York City Department of Education. And that's actually where I started working as a consultant, is what they call it. It's basically part-time. And I worked in the office for charter schools, for, you know, student outreach and communications. And it was just like a very cool exposure. And so by the time I graduated from my program, I had made enough connections, and a couple people really took care of me. My first boss, Catherine Latimer, and then this other woman, Melissa Harris, who's still a really good friend to this day, and kind of a mentor, big sister figure. And they introduced me to the general counsel, who was looking for someone to lead their panel for educational policy, which was like a operational sort of job, but also you're whipping votes, which was super cool. Like the mayor appoints people, borough presidents appoint people, and you're like basically trying to get people, trying to have a line of sight to how people are going to vote. And the idea is, of course, to make sure that all of the department's proposals pass. And so, I mean, I literally landed at the intersection that I wanted to land at. And that felt really, really cool. That felt like a really awesome sort of sequence of events to happen.
awesome. And so, like, having done all of that, like, what did you learn right off the bat? Like, one, relationships matter everywhere you go.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I think like one of the things that I really learned in that job is absolutely networks. Actually, the Opportunity Network. This is a very big thing that we emphasize in our programming with our young people, and it's a very concerted effort to make sure that they're, you know, learning all of the very literal ways of networking that people don't teach you. Like people say, like relationships matter, who you know matters, but not necessarily how to do how to like make those inroads, especially when you're a young person. That's very scary. But I participated in a lot of programs growing up that I think sort of helped me understand that importance. And so I was still kind of figuring out how to network. I remember really hating it, but it felt very organic. I was working in, you know, I didn't like the idea of like glad handing, like walking up and like slipping your card in someone's hand and being like, my people will talk to your people. You know, it just felt very
like,
yeah, like a little ick factor, you know. But I think that how it really plays out, and I think, you know, at this age, I now realize this very, very much so, is that a lot of the best networking is super organic. And I worked in this really amazing government agency that had all these really smart people who were super dedicated to the work that they were doing, and looking for good talent. And so, like, literally what happened is I said hello to the general counsel in the bathroom. And she's still another like good friend, somebody that I really look up to this day, who I still talk to. And I said hello. She's a Black woman, also in the same sorority as me, and
Oh, what sorority?
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Ah, so you're an AKA,
Yeah.
so you were extremely happy about our certain vice president.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was one of those. I was one of those. Are you an AKA as well?
No, but I have lots of friends who are, and
Yeah.
y'all have been insufferable, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I was gonna say, so you know how we've been acting, yeah.
Yeah, you know, if ever there was a time to act out, this would be that time.
This
so
is it.
I will applaud and be like, yep.
Yes. But so yeah, so I mean, we just chatted in the restroom, and she remembered that when I was introduced to her later. And, you know, from that exchange, got this really, this read on me of like, oh, she's confident, she knows how to act and conduct herself, and how to be professional, and whatever, whatever she took is what she took, but obviously it made an impact. So relationships for sure. I think I also honestly learned about the nature of politics, which was exhilarating. And also, I think I got to a point where I was a little jaded, to be quite honest. But for a while, it was very exhilarating because we were working on things that were getting covered, in the media. And I was like, oh, wow, this matters to people, and has such an immediate, very significant impact in communities. And so that was really cool. But I think I just learned, how much of politics is infused into education. And that sounds obvious, but I don't think I understood how much, like, in New York City, the mayor's office is actually like very inextricably tethered to the Department of Education. Like they're under mayoral control. And so it was just interesting to watch how that influenced the way that we would introduce certain proposals. And of course, in whipping votes, I'm going to people who, are serving at the leisure of elected officials that may not be in alignment with the mayor. And so you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do you need? What would make you feel, bought into this? And I think I learned some really great skills from that process. Like just learning how to appeal to very specific needs of very, specific people. Like everyone has a different angle, a different set of needs and interests. And learning what those are is so valuable, and how to try and meet people in the middle, or to kind of recraft your messaging in order to connect better with people, is just a level of communication skill building that I think was definitely happening on the go, but I have used it in every job since.
It's such an important aspect of like career, but also just folks understanding that it does require a level of sensitivity, but also just, hey, here's how we connect with folks. Like,
Right,
and it doesn't
right.
have to, and it can be like a bathroom conversation. Like, I remember I ended up talking to a CEO of a huge company because we had the same boots in the bathroom, which is hilarious because I'm sure she paid full price and I got the sample sale. But she was like, Loafer Randall boots. I'm like, Loafer Randall boots.
Oh, I love Loeffler Randall. Shout out to Loeffler Randall.
So you probably know the book, like you probably know the books I'm talking about. Like they're like this insane Vishata leather, which are like, it's like butter leather.
Yes,
and
their
they're knee highs. Yeah, and they're knee high boots, and like they're like a perfect low boot, low heel boot.
Yep.
And we just ended up chatting, and then on stage when she was like, "Oh, and where's Laura?" and she's like, "Laura has great taste in shoes," and like, and it was a thing, and then we ended up establishing a nice rapport, and like to this day we're still friendly, and because it wasn't like, oh my God, I want to talk to the CEO of this company, but like I just want to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And usually I tend to be quite antisocial, but like if someone has great shoes, I will comment on great shoes.
Have to say something. Yeah, I mean, it is those little things, right? Like it's those little things that make you distinctive from probably all the other people who probably wanted to talk to that CMO.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So, you're doing all this stuff. You're like you're kind of in a good place. How do we get to be having a conversation today where you've got like a bunch of cool things going on?
Oh, so I mean, we got introduced through Serby Law. So I worked with Serby. So Serby's a really wonderful, super smart woman who works at Luminary. And so we actually met working together through my work at the Opportunity Network. She did a really awesome session for us at one of our staff retreats. And so we've been connected, and actually she's been following a project that I've been doing called Black Women Work, which is a social media project that I started as basically a passion project to honor Black women and our contributions to the workplace. And, she's dropped me such supportive notes. And I think because of that, and because of the angle of what you're doing with this really phenomenal 28 days of, Black women being awesome. I'm sure that's not the official title.
Close, but very close.
Okay. But yeah, so that's how we got introduced. And I'm so thankful because I just think what you're doing is really wonderful and honestly feels very close to what I do with Black Women Work. And so, yeah, here we are.
So tell us more about Black Women Work.
I would love to. So Black Women Work was a seed in my brain probably for, maybe 6 or 7 years. And I think when it kind of first came to me, I'm like, well, maybe I'll do a book where I'll interview all of these Black women about their lives and about Black womanhood and girlhood. And I don't know. I think I have this love affair with Black women. I think they've just been the most influential people in my life. And I've always been a girl's girl. I've always been someone who really loves my friends. That is quite literally how I consider my hobby, is just spending time with my friends. That is what I like to do. I'm just constantly impressed by the women around me, to be honest. And almost all the women around me are Black women. And I think that I wanted to do something where I got to highlight what I was seeing, which is the incredible diversity of what we do and how we live our lives, how we understand ourselves. I don't think it's a strange or unfamiliar concept to anybody that the way that Black women exist. It's changing more now, I think, as more Black women are able to tell their own stories and are getting those platforms and getting into those spaces and making space for other, women as well. But I think for a long time we were presented in, a handful of ways, most of which could be kind of one note, maybe even harmful, a lot of times harmful in terms of imagery and what it was saying about Black women on the whole. And so I really wanted to create a space, a channel that was dedicated to Black women, just being smart and innovative and community minded. And so that is Black Women Work. So it's an Instagram page, but it also has a website where the full length interviews that I do are on there. They're written interviews. And so I'll just talk to women from all different sectors, all different industries. And we'll do 25, 30-minute interviews, and I'll get them transcribed, edit them, post them on the website, and then I promote them on the Instagram page, which is also, I think, just becoming a space where I, each week I highlight, what Black women have done that week, like things that I can find in the news, and not just famous people, but people that you might not have heard about. And so yeah, I think, I just got to a place where I was like, I really want to create a community for Black women to just see themselves and see their friends. If you go to brunch, I'm sure I can just, we've known each other very briefly, but I can tell, Laura, that you are somebody who is obviously extremely connected. You're very smart. And I'm sure you know a million Black women who are just killing it, and so and here you are, right, highlighting all of them this February. And so I think when you think about who you end up at brunch with, I think when you think about who you see when you look around the table, when you look around your table, your community, it's probably easy to find, you throw a rock and you hit somebody who's awesome, and that, so it's
literally,
literally, that's how I feel. I just honestly feel like that about my community. That's why I'm like, I feel like it's a little bit of a love affair because I just think we're just so dope. And I really, really wanted to do something where it was a complement to the work that I do on the day to day, which is very organizational change management. It's challenging, and people management is always tough because it's a lot about culture and personalities. But I think, this is just something that is kind of creative. It's my first creative endeavor I put out into the world. That was very scary. So I'm very proud of myself for doing it. And it was the first thing I did that I think wasn't like box checking. I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to college. Did these internships. I got these jobs. I went to grad school. I lived in these big cities. Check, 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 check. And at this age, I think around 31 or so, I was like, okay, my work is way, way, way too much a part of my identity. And there's just other parts of me that need to have some air breathed into them. And so this project was very much an extension of that feeling, and like a manifestation of that feeling of like, this is something that's been in my brain. Why haven't I just done it? Like, what's the worst that could happen? So, yeah.
Well, yeah, honestly, that's kind of the impetus of why 29 Days of Magic exists, because yeah, I do know a gazillion Black women, but I actually don't know them all.
Right.
And I'd like to. But also, I think it is oftentimes important for folks to see that Black women in your everyday business are probably doing something amazing you don't even know about. And that's why I've deliberately not used my actual network to find my guests for 29 Days of Magic. Like last year was about 70-30 in terms of people I didn't know versus people I did know. This year, it's about, right now, it's like close to 80-20, which is what I want. Because here's the thing, like, I know tons of folks who I could easily reach out to, and you probably have heard of them. But my whole thing is that, like, we have to get to a point where you just see awesomeness everywhere you go, as opposed to it being this extraordinary person who looks a certain way and wears a certain thing, does her hair a certain way, is quote unquote unapologetic. Like, it doesn't need to be all that. It can just be like, I'm doing a damn thing. I'm here. And I have some wisdom to share. And I think if we break it down to brass tacks, that's kind of the most important thing about this. Because I think, we don't need to always see the super heroic, inspirational story for it to, like, grounded in some horrible trauma in order for you to follow, versus like, there's a great working policy. Also built this Instagram to celebrate dope Black women. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, agreed 1,000%, right? Representation is everything. And I think as broad as you can go in showing how multidimensional Black women can be, like, we're all the better for it. And it's just such a cool time because I just feel like we're seeing so many Black women doing really cool things. And like, we just have so many new spaces popping up. There's like a lot of new opportunities for people to shine. So yeah, it's just a really, really cool time. And one thing that you said that I think really resonated is this idea of like the very specific type of woman that I think we constantly see highlighted. She does look a certain way, and she's probably dope, right? Like, it's not saying anything about that woman. It's just that, of course, there are so many other women that are, the way I said it when I started Black Women Work, it was like, these are ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Because the idea is that if you're a teacher at a high school in Brooklyn, at a high school in Brooklyn, like, I think that we've also had a principal who's in Brooklyn. I was like, wait, I've done both though. But like, I've highlighted, two educators who work at, schools in Brooklyn who are just so cool, like, just like the coolest women. And so I think like they need to be shined on because what they're doing for their community, the amount of dexterity they have to have in the kind of acumen they're employing on the day to day in terms of attending to the social emotional needs of their young people, and then also the management needs of running a school or running a classroom, and the kind of intellectual, curricular, pedagogic needs of working within a curriculum, and what they bring to that with their unique backgrounds that look very much like that of their students. That to me is extraordinary, because we all know that, like, for me anyway, I only had maybe 2 or 3 Black teachers growing up, or, principals in my life. And so I'm sure that's the case for other people too. So I think making sure that we're saying, hey, look, like, these are women who exist and who are doing really incredible things, is a worthwhile endeavor.
It's necessary. I think it needs to be normalized, because that's the thing. It's not normalized, and as a result of that, you're like, oh my gosh. And so it fills this weird vacuum whereby, like, you have to be the super extraordinary, where it's just like, just like the smart, good woman who's there is all you really need here, because our existence is an act of rebellion and resistance.
Yes. Snaps to that.
So it's a very unique space to be in.
We're so excited to have Soho Works as the sponsor for the 29 Days of Magic campaign. They're designed by Soho House, and their workspaces to help creative thinkers, businesses small and large, connect, collaborate, and grow. And it's where I'm recording all the episodes of 29 Days of Magic. It's a safe, wonderful, and collaborative experience. I'm currently in the Brooklyn location, but they have locations, one else in New York City, in the Meatpacking District, one in LA, 5 in the UK, and they give you that kind of home away from home feeling with all the tools, technology, equipment to help you do your best work. Like I said, it's an amazing location, feels safe. I've been able to meet some really awesome people, which you haven't been able to do a lot because of the fact of COVID. So it's been a wonderful experience being able to record here and help build community. So if you want to find out more information about it, please go to sohoworks.com to get more information, and tell them I sent you. And now back to the show.
So talk to me about a time when, you had a challenge and you're like, okay, there's no way this is going to work. And then it did.
I think this is not a specific example, but it's a very meaningful one, which is when I took a job that was a big jump for me. And I think earlier I kind of talked about box checking, and I've learned actually through the course of interviews with Black women work how many people use this term, where I'd gone into this role with this intention of just continuing to climb, right? Getting shinier title, more influence in the organization in which I worked. And it was really exciting. And I made some significant changes to my life to step into that role. And it was just such a poor fit. I had never not actually done well at work. And so it was a little bit of like a blow to my sense of self and to my identity to end up in a situation where I felt like this is a poor fit. And it wasn't, I'm not pointing fingers here, because I feel like they thought they knew what they needed. And so they hired for that. And then I came in and immediately was like, oh no, that's not, that's not like what this actually needs to be. And, I felt like my predecessor kind of left this her-shaped hole that I was sort of expected to step into. And of course you can't do that because, I'm my whole own person. So, it was hard. It was really hard to try and constantly find a place for myself, and feeling like my skills didn't seem to be needed. The assets that I was bringing and that I was sort of under the impression would be useful didn't seem to be appreciated or useful. And so there were parts of that job where I'm really trying to stay vague, but I mean, but I think there were parts of that job that were really, really insightful and helpful. I think I got a good sense of nonprofit management, which now I'm in a leadership role at a nonprofit, and my degree, actually, my master's ended up being in nonprofit management. So, I mean, I'm right where I wanted to be, and so that was all for a purpose. But this role in particular was very hard because I had to learn how to validate myself outside of work, right? Like, it can't be and I'm somebody who, like, words of affirmation is my love language. So I really need to hear, great job. This is amazing. Knocked it out the park. Like, I do need that. And whatever, like, we all have flaws. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that is what I need on some level. And to be in a situation where I felt like I was really trying and just couldn't make up the difference felt like a failure. And I never felt like that in a professional space before. And so I really had to figure out how to maneuver out of that situation and kind of get the nerve to pivot back to something that felt right. And so I had moved cities for this. I lived in New York, I left, and then I was in DC, and I came back to New York. And so it felt almost dumb to be like, okay, I did all this, I made all these changes, and this wasn't the right move. And so there was that element to it too. And so I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision about what I was going to do. And I had just fallen in love with New York and didn't realize it until I left.
Right. And so many people said that.
Yeah, I really played myself. I was like, oh no. I was like constantly resentful that things weren't open late. But I think that it was definitely time. It was valuable time because my sister lives in DC. My close friends live in DC. I was 4 hours away from my parents. I was there for the last year of my aunt's life. And so all of those things are so meaningful to me. I'm not upset at that time, but it was very much an experience of learning what makes me uncomfortable and where I have to start drawing lines for myself and how I have to start prioritizing me. And not prioritizing my job, not letting my job feel like the be all end all in terms of, how I appreciate myself, how I understand myself in success. And so I started making moves to come back to New York and ultimately landed at the Opportunity Network. And it's just been such a wonderful experience. I really identified I want to work in a space where I'm focused on communities of color, particularly Black communities. I want to work in a space where I have autonomy and agency. I want to work in a space where I feel validated in the work that I'm doing and my perspective is necessary and valued. And I am an excellent relationship builder and space maker, and I'm really good at collaborative, advancement of like organizational change type work. And so somebody needs that, and so like just because this job doesn't need it doesn't mean it's not valuable. And that comes from a place of shifting to an internal, like a sort of personal value that you have to develop, like I guess kind of like self-worth, right? That is not tethered to anything external. And so I would honestly say that's like my very long-winded way of saying that my challenge was coming to that realization that I needed to, like I said earlier, breathe life into other parts of myself and other parts of my purpose, and be very clear and very intentional in placing myself in situations that favor my needs, that facilitate, the fulfillment of those needs. And so yeah, it was quite a learning experience. One of those like, okay, I learned a lot. Maybe a lot of that is stuff that helps me understand what I don't want, but that helped me land in a place of something that I'm very much enjoying and learning from and growing from.
It is awesome and such a great way of sort of framing that question. So thank you for sharing that. And it was interesting, like I've seen lots of folks with chief of staff titles, and then I have friends like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
So in 50 words or less.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. You can take your time. Can you just explain what that means?
Yeah. So a chief of staff is a facilitator and a coordinator. So they're constantly making sure that everyone is moving in alignment with institutional priorities, and that those decisions are being made with the right people at the table, and that the decisions made at that table advance to action. And you're doing that with a purview across the whole organization, usually. So that is like my very long and short answer.
No, I think that was less than 50 words. I could be right.
Great. That might be the most concise I've ever been in my life.
I mean, I wasn't going to really hold you to it.
No, I know, but I was like, I accept this challenge.
And you nailed it. But yeah, because I think that, but like, so in even short words, you're the shot caller and point guard, to make sure folks know where they need to go, and make sure that they can actually get to their perceived destination safely.
Yep.
All working together. So I love it. So, it's a very strange time. We're all stuck in COVID times.
Yep.
What in the world are you doing for your self-care?
Right. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily a New Year's resolution person, but it's definitely a New Year's resolution. I just don't like saying it. But basically, I decided that I wanted to develop a routine. And so for me, what that means is making sure that work stays in a very specific compartment in my life so that I have energy and time to spend on things that are filling me up in other ways, right? Like making sure that I'm focusing on meditating and journaling. I've always journaled, my whole life I've journaled, but I'm trying to do it every day. And meditation is something that is so hard for me. I feel like my brain's going 1,000 miles a minute all the time. But every time I do it, it feels so good. It really feels like the deepest of deep breaths, and then you can kind of go about your day. And so that's something I'm working on trying to make sure I do in the morning. And then also fitness and cooking. Cooking being like with the intention of like just eating better, not ordering from, Seamless all the time. And also, right. I mean, look, clutch. But I mean, COVID kind of made it so I almost had to start cooking because remember, we didn't really know at first. It was like, well, can you take things from a delivery guy or, is it safe? Yeah. So, I've started cooking again and I've always been decent, but I'm sort of really excited at how I've sort of learned to deepen my skills, just feeling a lot more comfort in the kitchen and looking forward to it because it's tactile. All day I'm using my brain. And that's when I listen to podcasts. That's when I listen to music, and just cook. And so yeah, it can be a little hard because you can't hear things boiling or something. But like generally,
slight issue.
Slight issue. You have to keep an eye on things, but those are kind of the things that I'm doing. I also have a cat who's a little bit like a therapy pet roommate situation. So that's really nice too, to just have another living creature in this apartment with me.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Because I think we all have to figure out that I was in the same bucket of, wait, you want me to do what now? Cook all the time? Oh God, right. Really? Okay, fine.
Is that, were you a good cook before, do you think?
Pretty good. But now I probably, I think my skills have gotten a lot better. I was HelloFreshing it for quite a while.
Ooh,
and that came in very handy. And then I just got sick of cooking. And I was like, how did my mom ever do this for 40 odd years? Like for all of us. Like, my God.
Every day.
Not even a year of this. And I'm like, I am so over this. Like whatever dude I end up marrying is going to be like solely disappointed. I'm like, yeah, I'll cook like on the weekends.
Right. And you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Because like this is a treat.
Yeah.
But I've slowly kind of been like, okay, well, I can order now.
Yeah.
I don't want that mask on, and okay. Yeah, but that wasn't. I don't think I did that until, oh my God, I want to say like July.
Yeah, same.
Like I was very much like, I don't want to die. It's kind of important. I'd like to live.
Priorities.
These are things that matter.
Right.
And now looking back on all the work you've done, what do you think you'd tell 21-year-old Pier?
Oh man. I think I would tell 21-year-old Pier to continue building her community very intentionally. That has been, I realized I didn't save for self-care. I talk to my friends all the time. And they've been so important to me and my mental health. And I've always had a great community around me, but I think I would tell 21-year-old Pier to really like dig in more, like be more vulnerable, open up more to people. Because I just think it's important as you get older and as you're developing your sense of self, to really feel connected. And so I think that's like just something, I mean, that's like a kind of random thing, but it's something that I think I would absolutely squeeze in there, is like lean into your community, and really prioritize them and treasure them. And I think also, for the professional front, I would probably say trust your instincts. Like I think like I honestly have not really steered myself wrong. Like even when I thought I went wrong, like it all kind of, I wouldn't be where I am, like it all works out. And and probably also just make sure, I would tell 21-year-old Pier to relax. Like all in due time, child. I think is what I would say to 21-year-old Pier. I think I was like just constantly feeling like every time I hit one box, I needed to check the next. And, I was not really stopping to smell the flowers, which is something I'm finally doing. And so, yeah, like I think those are important. Really take care with your community, be patient, and yeah, trust your instincts.
So very important and so very true. And last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Yes. I would say as a give, I would like to offer that it's a little bit of a philosophy, but I think I'm going to borrow something. Her name is Dr. Keisha Brown. She's my career coach and also does a number of things, but she's really phenomenal. Keep Balanced Consulting is her company. But Dr. Keisha Brown told me in one of our coaching sessions, she said, what is your understanding of success where you can see yourself in it? And what that's really getting at is what you're holding as an idea of success truly what aligns with your values, your needs, your skills, etc., in a way that's going to truly be fulfilling. And if you need to redefine it, but really like take some time to think about, what does success look like where you can see yourself in it, where you're not, feeling like you're falling short of that thing. You should see yourself in what you think that you can be. And I think my ask is going to be, please go follow Black Women Work on Instagram. It is at Black Women Work IG. It's a very important project to me, and the interviews are not paid or anything like that. But one of the things I really feel a pressure to do is make sure that eyes are on those interviews, because it's such a generous thing to give your story to the world and to trust someone to take that and put it out in the world, as I know, I'm sure you know, Laura. So I would love for people to go follow the account and check out the interviews on the website, which is linked to in the bio.
Awesome. We will absolutely do that and like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Pier, you've been such a delight on the show, just warm and fun.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
Our mutual love of Seamless is very important.
And Loeffler Randall boots.
Oh, yes. There's no point in wearing them now. It's so annoying. I'm like, I have so many. Like, Century 21 was the plug.
Oh, don't remind me. Oh no, I forgot they closed. So sad.
I mean, for real. Like, first year of the sample sale, then I got like 4 more at Century 21. I was like, put in one for mommy, one for me. I have a pair that I haven't even opened because like I bought it and I was like, at this price? Yeah, I'll take it in my bed. But yeah, it's such a delight. And we'll put all of your details in the show notes for folks to follow you on that's a really important project that you're undertaking. And thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Laura. I cannot express enough how exciting this is and how grateful I am that you asked me to join. And I'm just so happy that you're doing this specific project, that your podcast in general. I took a listen. It's really awesome. So keep up the great work, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. And that is our show.